right, everybody. How are you doing today? It is time for that final review for Dragon Age the Veilguard. I wrapped up my playthrough, my first playthrough anyway, on Friday night at 76 hours. And I'm now in the middle of my second playthrough as a mage. The first playthrough I went through as a rogue and took certain characters through the game, romanced certain characters, made certain decisions, and now I'm going through a second time, making different decisions, taking different characters, going for a different ending, and looking for a completely different outcome. And also, the second time around is more of my completionist journey. The first time I went through, I did it on normal difficulty, and I was just focused on side quests with the companions, so companion quests and main quests essentially. This time around, I'm focused on doing all the side quests as well as all the companion quests and the main quest for a more completionist journey. I'm not necessarily shooting for 100% achievements, but we'll see if I get there along the way. And we're going to be working our way through the second playthrough all the way up until Stalker 2 drops on November 20th. So if you missed the first stream or the first series of streams related to my first playthrough because you were busy playing the game for yourself and now you're done and you're spoiler free now that you don't need to worry about spoilers, you can come join along for the second playthrough if you'd like. We're starting every single day on YouTube and Twitch as we always do at around 8 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So hopefully we'll see you in the next one. So here's my mage right now. I've got the awesome N7 gear, which dropped the other day for in celebration of Mass Effect, which is awesome. So my mage is rocking some new duds. Yeah, so I did not anticipate getting a 76-hour playthrough out of my first run of Dragon Age, especially considering, I thankfully I was, it's pretty easy for me to avoid spoilers because I just don't look at other people's stuff on when I'm waiting to play something. So I was able to avoid all of the embargo spoilers and all the embargo reviews of the game, and I went into it completely blind on the 31st. I had heard rumors that because I did see on Twitter X, without seeing anything spoilers, I saw people getting anywhere from 60 to 80-hour playthroughs, all the way up to 120-hour playthroughs, and I kind of figured based on the way I play games and the way I kind of anticipated, I was thinking probably was going to get, a 50-hour playthrough just focusing on companion quests and main quests. And lo and behold, we got to 50 hours and I still wasn't there. And then I got to 60 hours and I still wasn't there. And then I got to 70 hours and I was finally at the point where we were getting to the, point of no return. So I felt extremely satisfied by that. Um, there's a lot here. There is a very rich and deep RPG. There are lots of decisions to make. There are lots of companions to take along the way. Lots of companions that you can potentially romance. And if you don't romance, they will have romances between themselves if you choose not to pursue any romances. So essentially, everything you've come to expect from past BioWare games, it's here, just like it has been in all the other BioWare titles that we've known and loved over the years. This is I would say it's kind of like, especially if you've played more modern BioWare games like Anthem and Andromeda, this is sort of the next step in the evolution of what they are evolving into, which is, many years ago, many years ago, back when I was a teenager, this company got its roots in the CRPG space. And like many companies, they have evolved beyond that. A good example is looking at how, say, Blizzard started off in the RTS space and then eventually, well, really RPG and RTS space, and then eventually moved into the MMORPG space, along with Overwatch, which is a shooter game. And BioWare's done the same. They started off in the CRPG space, and over the years they've graduated towards a more action RPG style of gameplay, and it works. It's something that I personally enjoy. And in this case, we see a little bit of combination of the old Dragon Age style of gameplay from like Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age 3, mixed in with what we saw in Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda with the on-screen menu in combat, allowing us to do lots of combos and the synergy between companions. Gone are the days of top-down CRPG. in favor of this, and that's nothing new because that went away many years ago. Dragon Age Origins was 15 years ago, and they haven't had top down for a long time. It's been third person RPGs since then, and this is just the latest iteration of that. The game visually is absolutely breathtaking. Let's go ahead and just take a walk around real quick. I'm here on my mage in Minrathous. We've been working on some quests. I'm fairly early on in the second playthrough of this game. Of my second playthrough, I've got Nev with me and Lucanus, and we've been running around working on a quest. I have been playing on the Xbox Series X. I've done a lot of videos already on like the performance and what I really like about the game compared to other games, the things that I think are the best components of this game. I love the story as an example. The game is visually breathtaking. The performance was amazing. So let's work our way through the things I do like. There are some things that I think could use work, but that's okay because at the end of the day, every game has little things, and whether or not those affect your enjoyment is entirely up to you. For me, I didn't have anything that took away from my enjoyment. I got through the end of my playthrough, and especially yesterday, we finished on well, I'm recording this on a Saturday, so I finished last night, and I did a 10.5 hour stream to wrap up the game. We got like 6.5 hours in, and I knew I was getting close towards the end, so we just stuck it out and went into the end game. And it was like 4 hours of just, oh my god, this is mind blowing. So much stuff going on. This is, for me, even though it has a few flaws here and there, this is the best Dragon Age game I've ever played. For a long time for me, it was Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition. Inquisition was always my least favorite. This game is better than Dragon Age Origins for me personally. We were also talking about this the other day. For me personally, this game is better than Baldur's Gate 3, which I didn't know, when that was going to happen, whether there was going to be a game that came along in the next year or 2 years or 3 years that would feel better than Baldur's Gate 3 for me. And the reasons for that are many, mostly because I'm still new to Larian Studios as a company. Even though I love the Baldur's Gate franchise, I've only known Larian Studios for 3 or 4 years, whereas I've been a BioWare fan since I was a teenager, and I played the first Baldur's Gate game and then played, the KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, and Neverwinter Nights, and Jade Empire, and the Mass Effect series, and all the Dragon Age games. I've enjoyed all their other stuff. I loved Anthem and Andromeda. And this, for me, is the latest offering from a company whose products I love. And this felt really, really good to me. The only weak points for me personally are there are some fetch quests in the side quest category, which felt like they were, I don't want to say they were bad, but they were of lesser quality. So keeping that in consideration, the companion quests and the main storyline here are where the bulk of the really good stuff happens. The companion quests in particular, I cried at Harding's storyline. I cried with Tash's storyline, and Tash's storyline in particular is the single best character arc I have ever seen in a game, and it even trumps Shadowheart's journey for me in Baldur's Gate 3, which at the time, Shadowheart's journey for me, at the time that I played through Baldur's Gate 3, was the best thing I had ever played. Tash's journey here, especially with what happens, and I don't want to spoil anything for people, the thing that happens at the end of her story arc, and that arc of completion, was just, to me, one of the best pieces of character development I've ever seen. And I just got to give a shout out to the BioWare writing team for having that work the way it did. But also, like, all of the lore here with the dwarves and the elves, and bringing it all back around full circle through the entirety of the Dragon Age franchise. There's a speech that Morrigan gives at one point, which I have up on YouTube. We have a video about that speech that she gives, where she talks about this overarching story that started in Dragon Age 1 with her and Flemeth, and carries all the way through into what this game is all about, which is the journey of Solus as a character, and the Elven gods, and Mythil, who is Solus's, companion, and other things at different parts of time, um, and their journey and what they did to the various races, and the storyline here is absolutely nuts in terms of the overarching Thetis, gods, magic, evil, good. So much amazing content in this game in terms of just sheer storyline. The weak points are the side quests, which have nothing to do with the companions. They are the little things that are related to, and I'm going to bring this up on the. Oops. I'm going to bring this up on the menu really quick. The side quests that I'm speaking of are related to the factions and regions, and I don't have a lot of them in my journal right now because I just started this second playthrough. But the factions and regions right here, I guess my head's in the way. Factions and regions are quests not related to the main story, but they are related to the factions of the game, which all of your companions are a part of, and they are related to the regions of the game. And if you are looking to do a completionist journey of the game, it is very important that you do all of these because they give you faction with the various factions, and that's important for something towards the end of the game. Without saying anything, without spoiling anything, think of this game. The nearest equivalent I could give you would be Mass Effect 2. You're gathering a team, you're gathering allies, and you're going to want all of those allies and all of your team members to have, you know, the most amount of faction and best alliances with them that you possibly can. You don't have to, because I play role play. The way I play my games, I do different. I do different things through different playthroughs because I want my playthroughs to be different because I want to see all of the different variations. So my first playthrough, I went through and I did not worry about maxing all the factions because I didn't want to. There was no reason for me to do so. And as a result, I had an ending with my first character, my rogue, who his ending was, I would say, very bittersweet. And also a tearjerker. We got to the end and we were weeping. There was multiple people in stream crying. It was amazing. Had a very bittersweet ending. This ending is going to be a lot different because I know things now, and I'm also going to max out my faction with everybody because I want to see, like, I want to see that, I want to see a different ending. So the replayability here is also key. I think that you could easily play this game 3 or 4 times through, and while most of the story would stay largely the same, there are still enough key differences, especially if you were tuning into my live stream towards the latter half of my first playthrough and into this early parts of like today. We had a lot of people coming into my chat and going, wow, I didn't see that. My ending was completely different. I had a completely different conversation here. This was completely different for me. Wow, I didn't see that when I played through. What about this? Oh my goodness, that's different. We've seen at least 20 to 30 different variants over the last as of this recording, over the last like 2 streams, we've seen 20 or 30 people talking about things. So there's quite a bit of variety here for the people who are looking at the replayability. I went through my first time as a rogue, and I romanced Nev, and I took Davern with me for the most part. Tasha's storyline was so powerful to me that this time around I changed my original idea. My original idea was my second playthrough I was going to romance Balara and have Balara be in my group. And I said, screw that. I want Tash as my romanceable companion. So I'm romancing Tash this time around and having Lucanus in my party. Lucanus became like this unexpected favorite character for me because of his love of coffee and cafe culture. And I just really love his accent, and he's a really cool character. But Emmerich and Manfred, Manfred is awesome. Um, and also just Davrin and his Griffin, Asan. The companions are very lovable here, and the relationships you have with the companions is very powerful and very emotional. If you are someone who loves good storytelling and loves good writing, and you get emotionally attached to the journey and the companions along the way, you're going to have a good time here. I know you will hear a lot of people saying that the writing in this game sucks. It's like written by a 7-year-old. I would argue that those people haven't actually played the game. The early 10 to 15 hours of the game does feel a little simplistic, but you're getting to know all of the characters, you're gathering your team. Once you do get the team gathered and you start to realize just how high, how big the stakes are, the game opens up quite a bit. It goes from being sort of a linear mission-based game to a more open-world format that we're all familiar with the Dragon Age games. And because you're starting to develop these relationships with your companions, their stories start to branch out, and you start getting into the super grim, dark, and gritty world of Dragon Age that we've all known and loved from the previous games. So you may have heard a vocal minority talking about how the writing's not good, there's no grim dark, it's like Disney Pixar. None of that is true, although I will say that the early stages of the game, it might feel like that's the case, which is why I think that a lot of people, especially if you look at the people who have bragged about on the internet how they bought the game, played it for 2 hours, and then refunded it on Steam so they could leave a nasty review. Ignore all that stuff and look for the people who have actually played the game live on streams so that you can see exactly how many, who has put how many hours into the game. Sorry about that. I had to mute that sound effect. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Anybody who's actually played this game beyond like 15 to 20 hours of gameplay has great things to say about it, because the storyline is really good once you get beyond the initial 10 to 15 hours. And I know some people say, oh, if it's not good in the first 10 to 15 hours, then it's not worth playing. It's not that it's not good in the first 10 to 15 hours. It's that you're getting to know your team in the first 10 or 15 hours. And until you have your full team assembled, you can't really make a judgment call about what the story of this game is going to look like until you start to see how the relationships of all of these unique characters are coming together. It's like Mass Effect 2. You can't make a judgment call on Mass Effect 2 until you start to have your team assembled and you're working on getting the relationships with all those characters, and you're getting to know all those characters and the side quests that they're doing and how they all mesh together on the ship. The performance is the best I've seen out of any AAA launch in like the last decade. In 76 hours of gameplay, I had one crash on the PS5, or excuse me, PS5, Xbox Series X is where I'm playing. One crash in 76 hours compared to, say, New World, where I was playing on the PS5, New World Eternum, which had crashes multiple times per stream, No Man's Sky on the Xbox, multiple crashes per stream. Most games that I play, new or old, whether it's on Xbox, PC, or PlayStation, I get random crashes. One crash in 76 hours was the only thing I saw in terms of a major technical hiccup, and we did have a couple of instances where there were some sound effect issues where the doors wouldn't trigger a sound effect, and then all of a sudden we would get a weird feedback noise, and all it required us to do was do a quick reboot of the game, and we were back to normal, and they were all acting normal. That's the only technical stuff I saw. The performance was amazing, no crashes, nothing, no visual issues whatsoever. It was smooth as silk and just awesome. The game is really, really big. I saw in our Discord, we've got multiple people talking about clocking in around 80-ish hours for a main playthrough. I've seen all of the completionist journeys I've seen people talking about are in the 100 to 120 hour range. I think some of that does depend on whether you're playing on story mode or hardcore mode, but mileage may vary a little bit there. I played on normal mode my first time and got 76 hours doing only companion quests and main storyline. This time around, I'm playing it on a lesser difficulty, not quite story mode, but in between. It's like the second most difficult. And I'm going to do all the side quests, all the companion quests, and all the main quests. And I would anticipate something around another 80-hour playthrough if I had to guess, considering there will be side quests that I didn't do in my first journey. So, depending on what difficulty you're playing on. And that, leads to another thing we've talked about. I think one of the things, I have another video on this, the accessibility options that BioWare has provided for players here in terms of all the different ways that you can customize your gameplay experience, not just related to on HUD elements, but also the combat difficulty, and having a God mode for players who don't want to deal with the challenge of gameplay at all and they just want to play for story. Having a God mode is one of the coolest features ever to give players complete agency and control over their characters. To anybody out there who claims that this game has a woke agenda or anything like that, Here's what I would say to that. That's a false narrative completely. The only character in this game who fits that category is Tash. And Tash starts off as just another NPC. When Tash starts off, she is a dragon hunter who you hire onto the team because she's a badass at killing dragons. And only through doing her optional side quests do you go through the journey of personal discovery of her going from a she to a they them and having that discovery and that journey of uncovering who they are along with their mother and that journey of acceptance. That is an optional storyline that you don't have to participate in if you don't want to. So the idea that this game has some sort of a woke agenda that it's pushing at you is a completely false narrative. Like many games, you have the option to choose your pronouns when you create your character. That's normal for the days and times we live in. It's optional. You don't have to choose that. Or if you're someone like me who's a heterosexual white male, I'm a he, him, I don't worry about it. It's not something that applies to me, but I appreciate the fact that they have it there for the people who want it. And Tasha's storyline is hands down the best companion storyline in this game. I wept like a baby at the end of it. Harding's was a second for me, and Emmerich's was probably my third favorite, because Manfred is freaking awesome. And Davern would be after that because of Asan. I think that Nev was my romance option. Hers was sort of. I love the fact that she was calling me Trouble as a nickname by the end of it, but I also felt like her story, it was good, but it wasn't my favorite. And Balara's was kind of like, meh. Balara was my least favorite character out of all of them. She still had a really cool story arc. So, there is no woke agenda. There is a character who has an optional story arc that you never have to participate in if you don't want to. She's just a dragon hunter. And if that's what you want Tash to be, is just a dragon hunter, that's all she ever has to be. She only becomes a non-binary character if you choose to take her on that journey to go from being a she to a they, them. And that's up to you. I'm glad it's there for the people who want it because it's representation for the people who have that journey of personal discovery. And I know that the team at BioWare is very diverse, and the team that they have was able to put themselves into this game from an artistic standpoint, and I am happy for that because that's what art is at the end of the day, is being able to take your version of something and put it out there for the world to explore and enjoy. And I had a great time doing so. The combat is really, really, really good. The synergy between characters is really, really, really good. The combo and detonation system, if you're familiar with the Mass Effect series, or if you're familiar with like Anthem, this is an evolution of the Anthem Andromeda Mass Effect combat system blended in with like Dragon Age Inquisition and Dragon Age 2. It's very well done. The way you've got this pop-up menu, the fact that I can have, the default is to have this be always, having to hold this down, but you can also go into pause time, real time with pause, which is what we're doing right now. We're paused. And from here you have the control over this character, the other character, and my character at the bottom, and also at the top, you have abilities based on combat. This system of primers and detonators, is really well done, and the synergy you can have between basically the trilogy of fighter, rogue, mage works really well. But it does lead me to my personal. It's the one thing that I'm not a huge fan of in this game, and it's not that I'm a huge fan of it. It's just that for me, any game that has a heavy focus on action combat, whether it be God of War, Ragnarok, most recent God of War games, the most two recent God of War games, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, hell, even like Destiny 2 or Starfield, shooter games, Call of Duty, things of that nature. To me, combat will always, and especially I even said this about Dragon's Dogma 2 as well. Combat for me is always something where after about 30 hours of combat, the novelty wears off. And for me, that's sort of when I start to go, the spell effects are really cool, the combos are really awesome, and the things you can do in combat are really cool. But there is repetitiveness to it at the end of the day. And that could be something where I would happily say that this is a weak point for me personally, is just that there's the repetitiveness of combat after about 30 hours of gameplay. But some of that can be taken away by choosing to play on a harder difficulty, or choosing to have different party members because of the different synergies that they bring to the table. I will also say I saw a review recently where someone put the game on easy mode closed their eyes and did combat and then criticized how easy the combat was in this game. And I feel that that was a very disingenuous take because you can have, I mean, the purpose of having multiple levels of difficulty in this game and even having a god mode means that everyone out there can have the exact experience that they want. Do you want the combat to be challenging? I found the normal mode to be quite challenging. I died many times over a 76-hour live stream, especially against the champions, because with a rogue I was kind of squishy. I'm even more squishy with my mage, and if you mess something up, it's easy to die. And there's lots of stuff going on with weaknesses against and resistances against electricity, against necrotic damage, bleeding damage, physical damage, ice damage, fire damage. And especially if you're playing on the nightmare difficulty and the higher levels of difficulty, underdog or nightmare, it very much is a strategic game where you must pay attention to your parry timing, your block timing, your dodge timing, the combos, your primers, your detonators, the types of weapon damage you're doing versus the resistances you're facing. The combat here can be as easy or as complex as you want it to be, whether it's God mode, so that you don't have to worry about hitting mobs and you can close your eyes and run around the battlefield and not die, or if you want to be, eyes pried open with toothpicks, trying to stay awake on nightmare mode and trying not to die. The combat difficulty here is incredibly complex and allows you to have the full agency control over what it is that you want to get out of this game. So I think I had a lot of fun with this. At the end of the day, it can get a little bit repetitive after about 30 hours, but again, that can be alleviated by just going to a different difficulty level or by choosing to bring different characters along for, different reasons. I think that after everything was said and done, for me personally, this is my favorite Dragon Age game of all time. For a long time, it was Origins. This has now become my favorite game above Origins. So for me, it goes Dragon Age Veilguard, Origins, DA2, and then Inquisition. And I said, I've said elsewhere, and I may even said at the beginning of this video, I'm 26 minutes in. I don't have show notes. For me, playing the game right now, I liked it more than Baldur's Gate 3, which I wasn't sure when that was going to come on, if it was going to be something 2 years down the road from Baldur's Gate 3 or 5 years down the road from Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is a great game, and it was my Game of the Year choice, as well as it was for many people for 2023. As of this recording, Dragon Age: The Veilguard is my personal Game of the Year choice for 2024. It has everything I wanted from a BioWare game. It's everything I love about BioWare. It's peak BioWare. I would give this a 9 out of 10. If they had more variation in the combat finishing animations and maybe a little more, and again, there is a lot going on here, in terms of, the different combinations of abilities that you could take. For me, it's mostly about the repetitiveness in combat and sort of like the fetch quests. Some of the like regional and faction quests feel a little low hanging fruit, where it's something so simple as be like, hey, this guy stole some stuff, go over here and get it back for us. It takes you all of 10 minutes and you come back and you get some coin as a reward. It feels very cheap. It feels very low hanging fruit. I get why it's there, but for me, it's not one of the things I really like about the game. So, those little things are enough to knock it down for me and make it a 9 out of 10. But it does have my Game of the Year vote for 2024 so far, and it's just a phenomenal experience. So phenomenal that I'm turning around and doing a second playthrough right away, which I don't think it's happened in a long time. I did turn around and do a second playthrough immediately with Baldur's Gate 3. I'm doing it the same thing here. And I'm going to be continuing that second playthrough up until the point when we get to Stalker 2, which is on the 20th. So I think I have enough time to get through a full clear since we're doing in a lower difficulty mode. But we'll see. In any case, daily streams at 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, Central Time on YouTube and Twitch. I'd love to hear about your journey. What's your favorite companion? What's your favorite side quest? What's your favorite combo? What's your favorite class so far? What subclass did you win? I went duelist with my rogue, and it was phenomenal. And I'm going evoker with my mage, and I'm having a lot of fun so far. Look forward to seeing all of you in the next stream, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, be respectful of each other, stay safe out there, and happy gaming.